Back here on the channel, it's the build up. Dexter Henry is here, my guy. If you've been following me at all for a while, you know this person is very, very instrumental to my career. So appreciate you for hopping on here. We're going to talk about the Knicks because we just found out who the Knicks are going to play in the first round of the playoffs. So
Yep.
we're going to look at their potential playoff chase. And Dexter, you've been all over this team, New York Post and elsewhere, and they're also your team.
Yeah.
Um, this Sixers matchup, is this or was this the desired result given that it was Heat Sixers? There was a lot of debate about who they should want. There's a revenge factor with the Heat. Sixers have Joel Embiid, who's healthy-ish, healthier now. Is this a desired result here for this series?
Yeah. I mean, listen, man, I had to always look at this the same way I looked at, everything else, where there was all this debate about the Knicks, who they should play, if they should duck the 2 seed, if they should take the 3 and try to place Indiana. Look, man, the Knicks have played good basketball reason. They're the 2 seed for a reason in the Eastern Conference. When I looked at these teams, Miami and the Sixers played tonight, and when we were recording this, I was like, yeah, I could see why these teams are the lower seed right now. There were some struggles offensively. You saw Miami struggle offensively in this one. If you would have asked me going into this one, I wanted to see the Knicks play Miami. Um, I just think there was a little bit more of a favorable matchup for them. Obviously, you like the rivalry there. I think most Knicks fans would say that. But here's the thing I saw out of tonight watching with Joel Embiid. He's not all the way back into his form. As you said, he's healthier or healthy-ish. Um, I thought defensively he didn't look as good. So it's funny. I'd like to see what the Knicks can do in terms of attacking him and pick 1-5 pick and rolls. Maybe, using Hartenstein a lot in the high post with his passing ability, making Joel Embiid work. I think the Knicks are going to try to do a lot of that. I would definitely try to attack him like that. This is a series the Knicks could win. There's no, to me, no reason the Knicks can't win the series. Joel Embiid is a handful, but I think they can shut down the role players. And I mean, look, that was the difference in the game. Nicholas Batum was amazing. The Nicholas Batum was
Yeah.
amazing, not just with 3 points. I got to give him credit defensively. He was amazing. He was the X factor in that game. He got some huge offensive rebounds, particularly in the second half. And then you saw Kelly Oubre Jr. come up with a big basket and credit Embiid for that, hit him with a big assist with just under a minute to play. So listen, the Sixers role players stepped up when they needed to, but I felt like the way the Knicks have come into the end of the regular season, the way they approached it, the way they played hard, 5 wins in a row, playing good basketball and the home court advantage. If you're a Knicks fan, look, man, you were gonna have to beat some good teams on the run. The Sixers were a good team. The Heat were potentially a good team. It is what it is. I like the matchup's fine for me.
Tyler Hero shooting 27 times also helps. Good God. Uh,
Yeah, I thought about that and I said, ooh, I might have to text Brian or Greg Sylvander. I said, man, I know the Heat people who cover the Heat, that I know. I was like, man, they can't be happy about that. Now he did hit some big shots down the stretch there,
did.
but he did also kind of shoot you out the game. And I know you do not like him shooting that many times at all. You don't like most people shooting that many times, to be
Yeah.
fair to you.
And Jimmy Butler, you could tell he was compromised because he was shooting way
Yeah.
more threes and is characteristically so. Like I think they could have been walking dead into that Knicks matchup, but now you know we'll see if they even win the 8 seed game to play the Celtics, which that should be fun. That's the best rivalry in the game right now, I think.
Yeah.
But this one I think could potentially be another interesting rivalry because you have the Knicks and a Tom Thibodeau team is going to play very well defensively. Typically is the case. That's the calling card. That's one of the calling cards of this Knicks team. Is just they play hard, they play strong defensively. You're going to have to contain Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. How
Mm-hmm.
are the Knicks best equipped to do that? Like, what is the way you think? How should they attack? How should they attack this matchup?
I think you have to try to get the ball out of Joel Embiid's hands when you talk about him first, right? Like, so yeah, I think you're going to send some double teams. You have two good centers who play well defensively in Hardenstein and Robinson, and we'll see where Robinson is at with his conditioning. He seemed like he was still trying to get back on track, but I think the Knicks are going to double, try to force the ball out of Embiid's hand. Don't think it'll be shocking. The Knicks, who don't do this a lot, but it wouldn't shock me if you saw them play a little bit of zone against the Sixers and take some of what you saw the Heat do in this playing game that I thought was very effective for stretches, especially in the first half. And if you look at the way the Heat were playing that zone, it was almost like a 1-3-1, but not quite that, right? Where they were pinching on the corners and having guys,
Mhm.
try to force the ball side to side. I
Mhm.
thought that was really good. As far as Maxey goes, I think the one thing the Knicks have in this, in this series that I think can be an edge, you can throw Anunoby on Maxey. You even have Deuce McBride, who you know is going to get some huge rotation minutes, is a really good defensive player. Put him on Maxey. So I think there's different looks in terms of strength and physicality, and also just really good defenders that I think can stay in front of him. And look, I'm not saying it's easy because you know this, B. Staying in front of Tyrese Maxey, who's one of the fastest guards in the league, that's not easy at all. But I think the Knicks can throw some people at him. I think you'll see Josh Hart on him sometimes. They have the ability with the wings to throw different looks. And I think that can try to slow Maxey down. You're not going to stop these guys. You're going to slow it down. So I think with Maxey is throwing different looks at him. And I think with Embiid, you're going to have to send double teams and try to get him to give up the ball early or even late in the shot clock and force a Batum to beat you, force a Kelly Oubre Jr. to beat you, force a Buddy Hield to beat you from the outside, Kyle Lowry, etc. You want those guys to beat you instead of him pounding them inside. But I think the other key I would say defensively is the bigs can't have ticky-tack fouls. They can't get in foul trouble. You can't see Mitchell Robinson picking up, bad fouls here at all whatsoever. I think it's also about how you guard Embiid defensively, but then also, as I talked about earlier, trying to attack him in the 1-5 pick and rolls. Can you get Embiid in foul trouble? Can you get him to pick up some ticky-tack fouls? And then see how it goes from there.
Yeah, we know Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, they're going to see Embiid. I think even in spots, OG Anunoby, who you mentioned, is somebody who's going to see Tyrese Maxey a good deal. I
Mhm.
think he's going to see Embiid in certain switches, certain matchups.
Yep.
Precious Achua as well, who I think could be advantageous in this series because of his rebounding. If he continues to rebound at the clip that he has in some spots, and then with Tyrese Maxey, yeah, you mentioned that the speed is the big thing. And also, we didn't see it against the Heat in this game, but he has cooked the Heat because of the speed, because of the precision from the outside. And the sort of last level for him was getting downhill and getting downhill consistently. That's what I think, because he was in the shooting guard bucket with like Jordan Poole and Tyler Hero and Anthony Simons. And I think
Mhm.
what separates Maxey from that group is the ability to get downhill, which all those other guys don't do at the same clip or with the same effectiveness or with the same timing. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see how the Knicks attack that. And Tom Thibodeau, I think, is going to figure some things out now with Jalen Brunson, because it's the other side of the equation. And this is
Mhm.
probably just as interesting, if not more interesting, to me personally. How are the Sixers going to defend him? Because I can give you some answers, and I'm not saying that they're going to stop Joel Embiid, but Joel Embiid might have a difficult time in this series. Who's going to have the Jalen Brunson responsibility, and how are the Sixers going to attack him?
Yeah, and I think about this with Brunson, and I think a lot about what we saw teams try to do to him late in the season, especially once, or I'll even say from February on, when Julius Randle was no longer on the floor. You saw a lot of teams try to blitz him and get the ball out of his hands early in the shot clock. The only team I actually really saw do a great job of it was Miami in the game they lost to Miami, their last matchup with Miami in the regular season down in South Beach. I thought Miami did an excellent job of blitzing, but what Brunson does well now since that time, I think he really adjusted, is after he'll give up the ball, which he's really good at not trying to split the double team, but giving up the ball and still finding it and then getting the 4-on-3 situations. But here's what he does well is when he gives up the ball, he doesn't stay stagnant. He moves. There's a little movement for him without the ball. So I think for Miami, the biggest thing for them, it's Miami, I mean for Philly, I think the biggest thing for them is if you're going to try to stop Jalen Brunson, well, it's about when you trap him, blitz him, you get him to give it the ball. You got to be on what his action is after that. Where is he going after? You got to follow him because a lot of times that's dangerous. We've seen it many times. Jalen Brunson gives up the ball. Josh Hart, now it's a 4-on-3. Josh Hart dribbles to the middle of the floor. And next thing you know, Jalen Brunson's cut to the corner and he hits it to him and he's pulling up for a three or steps in for a mid-range shot. He's so good. And I think the extra wrinkle he's added to his game is moving without the ball after he gives it up. So I think if you're Philly, you have to be very aware of that. If you want to slow him down, you have to think, okay, I got him to give it up. I got job one done. But now I got to still make sure I know where he's moving without the ball. And so that's going to be responsibility of Maxey, who I think will see some time on him. Kelly Oubre Jr., I'm sure will also see some time on him. But Jalen Brunson, man, and I know you like this, and we talked about this on the episode when he came on We New York Got Game. Bro, as a small guard, this guy's movement, his craftiness, he's a 3-level scorer. I don't know if there's an answer for him. I think the way you slow him down, because you're not stopping guys at that level, is to just you got to make him work hard. You want him to exert a lot of energy. And you want to make other guys beat you on the Knicks and not him, but I think you want to make him exert a lot of energy. So I don't know if the Sixers have the personnel to have somebody pick him up full court. But I think they'll blitz a lot. But if they want to be successful, they better be aware of what he does when he gives up the ball.
Yeah, because he'll relocate and then he'll get back in the lane, or he'll just settle for a 3-point shot where he's been
Hmm.
40% roughly this year. Very effective at that. I think Kyle Lowry is going to see time on him as well. And I don't know if that's a great or a bad thing. He wasn't a great defender in his time or his later days with the Heat. Jalen Brunson is not necessarily going to utilize his speed all the time because it's not really speed based. It's really just the crafty movement, the herky jerky style, as we like to call it, which, that can outfake anybody and things of that nature. Like that's how he's able to get to his spots. Like Tyrese Maxey would just go around you and go by you. Jalen Brunson could do that in spots, but for the most part, he's more crafty about how he does it. He kind of plays like somebody who's like 30 plus now that you think about it. But yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see. And honestly, plays like a classic New York City guard, if we're being real about it. But
He
he's going to
does.
be playing against the Sixers. It's going to be fun to watch. Before we get up out of here, what sort of makes this a successful playoff run for the Knicks? I assume you think they're going to win this series. I'm probably leaning that way as well. As of this recording, the line hasn't come out. I think it's going to be very close. And I think a lot of people are going to talk themselves in either direction. But what makes this a successful playoff run? Is it just at least getting back to the Eastern Conference semifinals? I feel like the winner of this series has a path to the Eastern Conference finals, depending on how much Giannis Antetokounmpo is actually compromised. So what makes it a successful run here?
I think the Knicks, I think 50 wins was a successful season, but in terms of a playoff run, I think winning around, I think it'll be slightly disappointing. I don't think it'll be the end of the world if they lost a 7-game series to the Sixers. But I think if you're a Knicks fan, you want to see them win around. You want to see them beat a good team. I think because of what you said, there is a path to the conference finals, which I agree for the winner of this series. I will probably lean to picking the Knicks. It's funny. I think the Sixers will end up being the favorite in the series. I think a lot of people are going to
Maybe.
jump on the Joel Embiid is healthy. They look, they look good. They've won 9 games in a row now. So there's going to be a lot of that. But I think the Knicks sitting back, getting some rest, having time to scheme. The Madison Square Garden crowd is going to be raucous with a team seated this high for the first time since 2013. I think the Knicks are in good shape here. And I think if you look at a situation like this and they beat a team where they have they have 2 all-stars, even though one's coming back getting healthy and the Knicks just have one. They don't have their second all-star, or it would have been in Julius Randle. Um, I think it's a huge win for the franchise. I think if the Knicks are able to win this series, and no matter what happens in the second round or beyond, it's a huge season because I think to me that it's multiple successful playoffs run. You've been in the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. You won a series for the first time last year. You lost to Miami, but the team looked better. You like the culture of this team, the ethos of this team. You saw how it changed when they had OG Anunoby. You saw what it was like when OG Anunoby, Brunson, and Randall played together. Although it was a very small sample of 14, 15 games, you got to see that. So I I think winning a round would be a successful playoff run for the Knicks. But if they didn't, I also don't think it's the end of the world, right? Because you play a tough Philadelphia team. You weren't at full strength, but this is the playoffs. People got to figure out ways to get it done. And I think the Knicks are going to be a little bit motivated. I think a lot of people will not pick them. I think they'll be motivated by that. I think they're going to hear that. They've been using motivation. This team's been fighting all year. So I'd be stunned. I think it's going to be a good series. I'm leaning to Knicks in 6. I'm gonna say that. I think Knicks in 6. I think Knicks are gonna, I don't know. I just feel like the Knicks are gonna take care of business. I think they've been on a mission, and I could see Brunson having a big series. And Embiid, Embiid didn't look great to me defensively, and he's still getting his conditioning back. So I think there's ways the Knicks can still exploit that matchup, and we'll see how that goes. But it's going to be a good series, man. It's going to be a good series. I'm going with Knicks in 6. There we go. I'm sticking with that.
I'm leaning towards right now Knicks and 7. I do think a lot of people are going to look at Joel Embiid, Jalen Brunson, and just pick, the guy who's been an MVP candidate multiple times. Although I would say Jalen Brunson probably an MVP candidate this season. I think a lot of people are just going to make that math, and then the question with the Knicks is where does the shot creation come if it's not Jalen Brunson, obviously, which
Which
is
is
where
fair.
I think Bojan Bogdanovic. This is a big series for him if he can actually make some shots, make that defense bend a little bit. Like to me, that's one of the answers to this question. Like Bojan Bogdanovic gives you double digits consistently, is shooting effective from 3. and those type of things can really just sort of stretch out the Sixers defense so that Jalen Brunson could have those drives. I think that'll be very, very important to this series. So I'm leaning Knicks in 7. And I think, whoever wins between Bucks Pacers, they're going to be in for a fight. I don't know who's going to win that series, but they'll be in for a fight. That's Dexter. Follow his work, New York Post Sports, Rapid Rundown, New York Got Game. There's probably like 4 other things that I'm probably
Now
forgetting.
that's the two stuff. Updates on WFAN, CBS Sports Radio. Well, excuse me,
Yes.
Infinity Sports Network, not CBS Sports Radio anymore. So yeah, that as well too. Love the show, Brian. Love it, B. Love it. The build up. I like it.
Yeah, we're trying some things here on the channel. More on the channel coming very soon.